The video that you just saw was a video of some of the cards, just a few samples of the cards that were made by the Children at Menorah Foundation, and thank you to them and also to Rabbi Jay who organised it. And I was able to personally take the cards they made and I delivered them to Chayalot in an army base, and I'll talk about that a bit later, and also to families that were displaced that were staying in the Jerusalem Ramada Renaissance Hotel. I'd also like to thank Shira Drurian, who gave me a whole load of cards that were made at a rally in America, and I was able to distribute them. I had the great honour and privilege to just spend, I went on the 19th of, I arrived in Israel on the 19th of November, and I spent 4 days with the Matan Eshkolot Educators mission. And I thank Rabbanit Malki Bina, Rabbanit Shani Taragin, Dr. Ariella Agastein, Michal Grushko and Chaya Bina Katz, and all the team, and also all my colleagues who made the trip so meaningful, and also all the people that I met on the trip. I thought I was coming to give chizuk to the people of Israel, but I came out more strengthened. Banu lechazek v'yatzanu mechuzakim. When you come out towards the exit of the airport, all you see are posters of the kidnapped hostages. It's just like everywhere in Israel. All you see are posters, and on every building pretty much, you see signs which say, B'yachad nenatzeach, together we will win this. And that is the general feeling, and that's the general feeling I saw all the time. One of the first places I went to, I took a train to Yerushalayim, and one of the first places I went to was a shiva for Captain Kfir Yitzchak Franco of the IDF. Now, he had died on the Thursday in battle, and I seen a sign in England saying, please can people come and visit Be Menachem Avel, this family. And I thought to myself, right, I'm just a bit like mad because I'm obviously going to be the only person, but clearly I wasn't so mad because people had come from all over the country, all the people who were in the queue waiting patiently. And I'll show you some of the footage of what it was like to be standing there. It was just like so humbling to see how many people had come to visit this family, and the people greatly received all their visitors. And I spent quite a bit of time with a sister, and I told her that I'd come from London, and she was very overwhelmed that I had come from London and come to see her family sitting shiva for her brother. But I just found it so moving. This guy had given up his life for the safety and security of Am Yisrael. There's a massive queue inside this tent just to have an opportunity to come. Later on that day, I'd gone to go and visit my father-in-law, but you could see the streets towards Har Herzl were lined with people holding flags because unfortunately another soldier had lost his life, and there was a kavura was going to be in Har Herzl. So that was Sergeant Binyamin Meir Early, whose father, from Beit Shemesh, and his father, Rob, was a British citizen, and he had fallen in battle in the Gaza Strip. The next thing I did, I walked to the Kotel, and here's a little video of me when I arrived at the Kotel. I can't quite believe that I'm walking down to the Kotel. It's amazing to be back, and I think about all the soldiers who fought for the right for us to have Yerushalayim. Then we went, it was absolutely pouring with rain, and we met inside, like the little area where where the women can daven, like very near the Kotel, which is like touching the Kotel, but you could be inside. And I met a lot of my colleagues, and we had the opportunity to daven Ma'ariv. And then we came outside and we saw this installation of 1,400 candles that were put up at the Shloshim to represent the 1,400 people who had perished on Simchat Torah on that awful day on the 7th of October. And I'll put a link in the end of in the comments, so you can read articles about things that I'm talking about, and also I'll show you a photo of the installation. From the Kotel, we went to the home and amazing hospitality of Rabbanit Malki Bina, and there we had the opportunity to hear from somebody incredible, a man whose name is Michal Shapiro. And his son Aner was one of the people who was at the Nova Festival. He was together with Hirsch Goldberg Polin, who unfortunately we still don't know where he is, and his mother Rachel and his whole family are tirelessly campaigning for his release. We're assuming that he's being held in a hostage in Gaza. May he be okay, because we understand that his arm has come off from the explosion, and that he should be looked after, and he should come home and be reunited with his family. May all the hostages be reunited very, very soon with their family. Anyway, Moshe Shapiro had no idea where his son was, and it's almost like an amazing thing that he knows what happened in his son's final hours of his life. So he had gone into a shelter, and he had really encouraged the people who were in the shelter with him. And he said, I know there's a military base really nearby. The soldiers are going to be here really soon. They're coming. Don't worry, don't worry. And somebody who was in the shelter with him took a picture by accident in the wrong direction, but it wasn't an accident, because this is the way that Moshe Shapiro and his family have a picture, the last picture of Aner, where they can see Aner standing at the entrance to this shelter, and he's standing up when everybody else is lying down on the floor, covering themselves and protecting themselves, and he stood, and according to the eyewitnesses, he was standing with a glass bottle at the entrance in case anybody came and tried to attack the people who were in this shelter. He also managed to find out a few days after his son passed away that there was a dash cam on a car which was parked opposite the shelter, and somebody could see this footage, and I'm going to put the link in the comments afterwards so you can watch it. It's not a story that I'd heard about until I heard Moshe Shapiro speaking on that day, on the Sunday night. And on the dash cam you can see that a terrorist is throwing in grenades, and you can see that the grenade keeps getting thrown out. And according to eyewitnesses, Aner displayed immense bravery by throwing out these grenades, and he did that, I believe it's 7 times. Unfortunately, the 8th grenade exploded and he lost his life. The people who were in that shelter, the reason why there are some eyewitnesses, some people died, unfortunately, and other people saw what happened. They just literally stayed where they were, pretending to be dead. And they, many hours later, when they were rescued, they came out and they told the family the story. What I found one of the most incredible things about Moshe Shapiro when he told the story, it's horrifying what his son had gone through, but it's amazing to think of the bravery that his son displayed, is that when it came to the time when they were able to bury their son, the body was released from the army, and they were able to bury their son. I believe he said it was supposed to be on Friday. And it was very difficult because there wasn't enough time before Shabbos to arrange the burial. And one of his family members said, hold on a minute, if we don't do the Levaya today, then next year, when it's Moshe Shapiro has a daughter who's 12, it's going to be her bat mitzvah. And it will be the anniversary of the day that we bury Aner, and it will be her bat mitzvah. And I just thought, how incredible, at a time of so much tragedy and so much loss, that a member of the family had the courage to look forward to the future, to think to themselves, we are going to rebuild our lives. We are looking forward to a time that we are going to celebrate simchas. And when it's going to be our daughter or our sister's bat mitzvah next year, we don't want it to be that it's overshadowed. Already it's going to be overshadowed enough by Aner's death, but we don't want it to be that it's actually on the same day of the burial, had they pushed off the burial till after Shabbos. And Moshe was insistent to bury his son before Shabbos so it wouldn't make it even worse for their daughter's bar mitzvah. What courage and what bravery. It's unbelievable. After we heard from Moshe Shapiro, we heard from Yaakov Katz. And Yaakov Katz is the son-in-law of Rabbanit Malki and Rav Bina. And he told us about the initiatives that some civilians did, where they just took took matters into their own hands to try and help rehouse the people, help find clothes and food for people. Unbelievable initiatives people put on. On Monday morning, we met up at Matan. Now, a lot of the people who came from America brought with them lots of things so we could make packages for the Chayalot. So we first spent a bit of time making packages for Chayalot, and here's a little bit of a video about that. Then we heard from somebody whose name is Noah Lewis, who works for the Chevra Kadisha for the Chayalot, and she told us actually she got called up on it with a Sav Shmona, which means she can't say no, to go and help, which she said her work is really, really hard because she has to recover the bodies of women soldiers and bring them to burial with Kedusha and respect. And I found it so moving. She said she thinks her job is to do Hashavas Haveda, to return these soldiers back to their maker. I found that very, very moving. We then went to visit families of displaced families at the Ramada Renaissance. So first of all, we can see that some of the halls in the Ramada Renaissance have been repurposed as kindergarten. So we went to see different classes and things like that. It was really nice. We bought some toys for the children to enhance their time, where they've got to make a makeshift kindergarten, a makeshift school. These families are displaced. It's just really hard to see. You might think, hey, that's nice to be in the Ramada Renaissance, but we heard from some people who live in Sderot, and it's like you've got no end in sight. You have no idea how long you're going to be there for. The kitchens aren't running like a 5-star hotel, so they've got to there's a Chal Rachel, and there's food, simple food, and the parents are still trying to perhaps go to work, but they've got no means of washing. So the local laundrettes have put themselves out, and there's volunteers who've gone to help the local laundrettes to do the washing for the people who've been displaced. They don't have clothes, they just don't have anything, they don't have possessions. We bought some duffel bags because that's what people wanted, because there have been so many incredible initiatives set up where people have donated clothes from around the world and around the country, and then they make a room in the hotel, and people are invited to come and literally choose whatever they want for free and take it from the shop, which is incredible. But then the people don't have any bags to put it in. So can you imagine, these people are living, they don't know how long for. They keep saying, okay, it's going to be a week, it's going to be 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever. So it's amazing that the Israeli government are financing it. But the fact is, nobody knows how long this is going to last. We heard from an incredibly brave lady. Her name was Ronit Timsit, and she told us the story of what it was like. She lives in Sderot, what it was like on the 7th of October, and how she was hiding in her safe room. And she said she saw open miracles happen to her and her family. She could hear the sounds and the voices of terrorists. And she said by some freak, not a freak, it's obviously Hashem's hand, but it's like the pathway to get to where her shelter is, which is like at the back of her house. It looks like, she knows how to get there, but it looks like it's a bit blocked, and she could hear someone literally walking down the path, but they thought that it wasn't anywhere, there was nowhere else further to go, so they didn't carry on walking, and her and her family were saved. She said she sat there in the shelter with her 7 children, and she was just like praying that everybody would be as quiet as possible. We also heard from another lady who's been living for 63 years in Sderot, and she still wants to stay there and live there, and she shows so much courage, and it's incredible to think how traumatized all these people are, but nevertheless how they show so much strength and courage. Then I said before, we distributed the duffel bags and the cards, and I'll show you some videos of me giving cards to some of the families. People were sitting in groups in the hotel lobby. Some people were in therapy. Some people were telling their stories. It was very, very moving. And we went round and we spoke to lots of different people. And then we heard encouraging words of Torah from Dr. Ariella Agastein. The video you just saw is me and some of my colleagues planting garlic. We knew we were going to a farm down south in an area called Gilit. And obviously, I'm not exactly the type to plant garlic, but it smelled really nice. But I thought we were going to be harvesting. And I was so overwhelmed when I realized that we were going to be planting at a time when obviously I thought we were harvesting the food that we need now, but the farmers and the nation of Israel are looking forward to the future at a time when they will be replanting and thinking to themselves, we're planting again, we're looking forward to the future. And it reminds me of the story, I think it's Gemara in Tanis 23, Amud Aleph, with the Choni HaMagel, where he sees somebody planting a carob tree, and he says, what are you planting for? And he's like, it's going to take 70 years for it to develop. And the man says, but my grandparents planted trees for me, and that's why I have fruit, and I would like to plant for my grandchildren so they would have fruit. And I just thought that evoked that story. And also another story evoked is, I think it's of us de Rabbeinu Nosson, which says, I think it's Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai says that if you're planting a tree and someone comes up to you and says to you, Moshiach is here, carry on planting, which is like a bit of a weird thing to say, because if Moshiach would actually arrive and someone told you that, you really want to like put your stuff down and sort of run, but and get yourself ready to go to the Beis HaMikdash and join in everybody in Yerushalayim. May that happen very fast, but it's like we still have to think about food, and we have to think about the future. Now, it's all very exciting to be doing planting, whatever, but when you're doing it for quite a long time, it's quite hard. It makes you realize how hard the farmers have to work, and makes you feel appreciative of all the food and how easy it is to just buy it in a supermarket. So after we went, we left the farm, we went to visit the city of Ofakim, which was also devastated by terrorists on that fateful day, and we heard from some of the younger members of the community, which was very moving. And in fact, we heard from a girl whose family originally came from Russia. Her name was Paulina, and she was telling us the story of that day and how her father was a soldier, a policeman, and unfortunately her father passed away in, doing everything he could to defend the city. It was just very moving. And these students told us about their life and how they've got this community centre and they're in a robotic science competition in the country, and how they're looking forward to the future, and that's like giving them strength and encouragement to be positive and to look towards the future rather than thinking so much about the atrocities that happened to them and their families, how awful it has been for them. On reflection, a few days later, someone in my group said something like, some of us have had the honour and privilege to meet people who have lived through the Holocaust and survived and rebuilt their lives. But we've never, or certainly I've never, met a Holocaust survivor at a young age. Here we met people in their teens who had gone through a Holocaust, and we had seen them, just a few short weeks after they had experienced this thing. May we never have this experience again, to be able to meet young people who have been so terrorized by evil people in the world. After we left Ofakim, we went to Mishmar HaNegev, the army base, and we delivered the care packages that we made for the Chayalot. And we had DJ Panina, and we did lots of dancing, and someone who, my friend Miriam, who's a madracha at Shalavim, she made biscuits with the girls in her SEM, and we distributed it, and I'll show you some videos about that. And right now at an army base, the soldiers, the Ofakim, are going to go and give some of the soldiers some lovely cookies. Hi guys, welcome to class. And we went round and we delivered the cards. And the girls really found it so meaningful, and we were dancing, and it was so. What I found amazing was when the music stopped and Rabbanit Shani Taragin gave a little bit of divrei chizuk, words of inspiration. When we were dancing and the music stopped, the Chayalim they started on their own. They started singing, Mishe ma'amin lo mefached. Anyone who has belief is not afraid. And these are people who are standing, they're guarding, they're doing whatever they have to do as soldiers. And those are the words. How inspiring it was for us to hear the soldiers singing these words themselves. It was very, very moving. After that, we went to Kikar. After that, we went to Kikar HaChitufim, which is like Hostage Square. And there had been on the news that day, it was like, they said that there were hopefully going to be hostages released before the weekend. But there was like it was very eerie to be there, because you could see like groups of people sitting in huddles and talking about their loved ones, and other people were comforting them and telling them they had come there. And unfortunately, we weren't able to stay for as long as we had wanted to, because there were rocket attacks on central Israel, and we were told that it wasn't safe for us to be outside in the square. So we just did go because we were all the way there. But it was so moving to see all the art installations and all the posters. Again, everywhere you see signs up, B'yachad Nanatseach. But I just want to mention one lady that I met when I was there, and I told her that I'd come from London and some of the people had come from America, and she was like, my name is Avital, I come from this kibbutz, and one day you're going to come back and you will come to my kibbutz, and I invite you in times of peace to be my guest. I just felt she felt so, I think she felt overwhelmed that we had come from London and America, and she was so happy to have met us. And it was a very, very, very moving day. Here is a picture of me in the blood bank because this is the first time that I was able, and I was in Israel since the time they let the British people give blood. So I managed to give blood, and it actually was a very smooth process, and the people were very nice. Not as easy as if you're Israeli, but if you are in Israel and you are English, you are now allowed to give blood, so that's okay. Try that. Then I went to Matan, and we heard from a lady whose name is Yael Biton, and she is a lawyer in the Department of International Affairs in the Office of the State Attorney, and she was telling us about an organisation that she's involved in setting up. And again, I'm going to put a link to that because they are collecting money, and the organisation she's involved in is something called HaOgen, which means the anchor, and it's to help people of families who have got a member of their family who's drafted. And this is unbelievable. It would never work in England because of data protection. But what happens is you can either sign yourself up saying, I need help, or you can sign up your friend saying, this is my friend and my friend needs help. And then they've got people who are like family liaison officers, and they contact the people who need the help, and they say, how can we help you? Do you need babysitting? Do you need, it's impossible to say what they need. So they have to contact the family, see what they need. Do you need help with washing? Do you need help with cooking? There was my man who contacted the organisation, and he said, look, my daughter is a soldier and now I'm left with a dog, but I need someone to help me dog walk. And people have really been innovative. They've thought of all different ways where they can help each other. And I know, for example, I've got some friends who they live in Ranana, and they go twice a week, I believe, to Netanya, and they are beauticians, and they just go there to give chizuk and to offer free beauty treatments for the families, for the women who are displaced. It's very hard. These women are on their own, they've got children, their children are scared, and they don't have their father with them in a lot of cases, and it's very, very hard for the women, especially if they don't have a financial cushion to fall back on. It's really not simple, and it's unbelievable. This organisation is unbelievable, and I would, if anybody wants to support it. I also know that Mizrahi, I'm going to put a link in the chat as well, organises food for the wives of Chayalim. It's called Eshet Chayal as opposed to Eshet Chayal. Think about when we on Friday nights sing Eshet Chayal. Think about the Eshet Chayalim, or Nesheh Chayalim, the wives of the soldiers, and how they have to manage on their own. And if you'd like to support that, that would be very much appreciated, I have no doubt. We then had a workshop with a lady called Rachel Sharansky-Danziger, and she helped us sort of teach us how we can do better at creative writing and sort of like processing the experiences that we'd all felt. And it was really interesting to hear from other people in the group about what they had felt. And for example, I gave you the example about how someone said it was like meeting Holocaust survivors as teenagers. It made me think about lots of different things that I hadn't personally thought about. We had a tzitzis making workshop with Rabbanit Shani Taragin, and we made tzitzis for soldiers. And we had some closing words from Rabbanit Malki Bina, which was very moving. And we also had a share with Rabbanit Racheli Frank, and I'd like to share some of the things she said. One of them she said was, in Tehillim Kaf Gimel Dalad, Psalms 23:4, we say, Gam ki elech begeit salmoves, lo ira raki ataimadi. Even though I walk in the valley of death, I will not fear, because you, Hashem, are with me. And she said, there have been terrible atrocities that have taken place in Israel since the 7th of October, and you shouldn't really watch things because just what you see you cannot unsee. But she said the soldiers who are working, and Zaka who are working in like recovering bodies, trying to piece together the DNA and things like that of soldiers that have died or civilians that have died, you almost maybe, God forbid, can become desensitized to evil. And we have to say to ourselves, lo ira ra, I shouldn't fear that I should become evil. I shouldn't let this evil permeate my life, and somehow I should think that what went on is normal. It's absolutely not normal at all. As it's nearly Hanukkah, I'd like to share an idea with you that Rabbanit Racheli Frankel shared with us in the name of Rabbi Abraham Isaac Cook, who passed away in 1935, and he was the first Ashkenazi chief rabbi of the British Mandate. And in fact, by the way, side point, he was actually a rabbi in Spitalfields in Massacre in England in the First World War. And in his 2-volume book, Ma'amare Hara'iyah, which was only published in 1984 in Israel, he says the following, referring to whether or not we should light candles inside or outside the home. Should we light candles inside the house facing outside, or should we light candles outside our front door? And he says, and I'm going to read what he says. It's an English translation. It's not perfect, but if you want to see the original Hebrew, I can probably get it for you. In normal times, we feel in the core of our being the courage of a public declaration. Let every inhabitant in the world know that the light that we spread is our eternal inheritance, and from us the light should shine forth and illuminate us and the world beyond. The mitzvah of the Hanukkah candle is the menorah, the sacred symbol which is placed at the entrance of our home, or inside our home, facing outside. Indeed, in times of danger, when the evil winds blow across the world, wild hatred and vengeance is displayed against Israel. So we can see there's nothing new. And our sacred nation and our country is at risk. At this time, the external glow cannot dispel the thick darkness prevailing, so the people of Israel turn towards their home and to the internal possessions of our culture, to the purity of our spirit and the cleanliness of our deeds, and to our Torah, to build Hashem's home in his land with all the strength of zealous holiness. And this candle, and I suggest the menorah, the emblem stored within us, testifies faithfully that nothing is lacking from all its spiritual magnificence and its honor of truth and justice. And I sincerely hope that the light of the Hanukkah candles will light up the world until that time, where we will have Ar Chodosh Ar Sion To'ir V'niske Chulonu Mehera La'oro. There will be a time where Hashem will ultimately shine his light on Zion. May it come Bimhera V'Yomeinu